Everybody wants weaponized vehicles. Whether you're a beginner or an experienced player, they're obviously very important to have because they're going to help you complete missions, they're going to help you survive and deal with whatever the heck's in front of you. In today's video, I'm going to be showcasing the top 10 best weaponized vehicles in Grand Theft Auto Online. Now, for the most part, we're going to be staying away from flying aircraft, like the F-160 Raiju, the Akula, anything like that. That'll be in a separate video if you want that. And we're also focusing on solo players, as, let's be honest, most players are solo, so these are great choices, especially if you're solo. I was surprised to see that the last time I'd done this video was over a year and a half ago, so I figured it's time for a redo. Let's see if my opinions have changed and what deserves to be in the top 10. As always, if you enjoy this content and you want to see more like it, please consider smashing that subscribe button. And, well, let's get straight into it. Now, I have listed, or I have the top 10 vehicles here, but I haven't actually decided which positions they deserve to be in yet, and that's what we're going to be doing here today. So, out of the vehicles in front of me, I think in the 10th place, I would definitely have to put this, the Stroberg. And that's just because the Stroberg is basically a worse Toriodor, which we'll be talking about later. Now, to be fair, I think the Stroberg is an incredibly strong vehicle. It is only $1.8 million, making it, well, one of the cheapest weaponized purchases you can make in the game. And what do you get for 1.8 million? Well, first of all, you get homing missiles, and you get a lot of them. And by the way, this is one of the only weaponized cars in the game that does not require you to have bunker research to get the missiles unlocked, and I think you can equip them in a Los Santos Customs, which means you don't need an Avenger or an MOC. Which is why I still think the Stroberg is an incredible vehicle and deserves to be in the top 10. If you are a beginner and you're looking for a useful, strong, and just in general great weaponized car, this is definitely what I'd recommend to go with. As I said, you don't have any level locks, and it's not expensive. It's half the price of a Toriodor, and you still get really good capabilities. You get homing missiles, you have the ability to survive 3 explosions in this vehicle, and you can still go into submersible mode, which does make it pretty cool to mess around with friends. In general, the Stroberg, it's nothing crazy, right? There are definitely vehicles which outclass the Stroberg. But for the price tag, I still don't think you can beat it. So you can obviously let me know your feelings when it comes to this vehicle. In the number 9 position, we are going to arrive to the APC. I really like the APC, but it does have some downsides which need to be mentioned. The biggest one is that while it is useful for solo players, the only problem is you have to spend a little bit of time swapping between the driver's seat and then using the weaponry on it. But honestly, the weaponry is so darn deadly on the APC that I still consider it to be one of the best weaponized vehicles. Why is it so dangerous? Well, we can see it on the top here. Looks kind of like a little turret, and it is. So if you stop the vehicle and you hold right on the D-pad for console players, you can see the character swap seats. Just like that, I'm now in the gunner seat. And, well, yeah, you can see why this weapon is so deadly. It's actually the same weapon as the Rhino tank. That's what it is. And the Kanjali. You have a tank cannon on an APC. So it's kind of insane. For those of you that are unaware, the tank cannon actually does a lot more damage than an RPG or sticky bombs. The way explosions work is homing launchers deal the least damage. Then you have sticky bombs and RPGs, which deal about double the damage of a homing launcher. And then you have the tank cannon. 6 shots from a tank, I'm pretty sure can take out a Night Shark or an Insurgent. So that's kind of wild, and it absolutely obliterates anything that comes after it. And when you pair that with the fact the APC can also drop proximity mines, as we can see, and those proximity mines are not to be messed with. Yeah. So it drops explosive proximity mines, and it can also go in the water. There's unfortunately no water near me, but the APC can float. It's not very fast in the water, goes like maybe 20 miles an hour, but still, it's really dangerous because of that. It's got great bulletproof protection. You can absolutely annihilate. And if you ever do have another friend with you, wow, does this thing become so fun to use. And again, it's not very hard to just swap between seats. You stop the vehicle, just like that, I'm already in the gunner seat, and I can start blowing stuff up. I can tell you many times I've called out my APC and just obliterated tryhards that try messing with me because they just don't realize how incredibly strong this vehicle is. In the number 7 position, we arrive to this, the ZR380, specifically the Future Shock variant. The reason why it's not going to go any higher is not actually because it's a bad vehicle, but only because of the fact it doesn't have the most dangerous weaponry, right? Every other vehicle in this list today is really, really dangerous. You don't want to mess with it. It has homing missiles or something else. But the ZR380, well, the main capabilities this has is more armor, but it still has weaponry, which is why I considered to put it in today's video. It has a really dangerous, I call it Mega Death Rammy thing on the front, and any vehicle you tap just literally gets flung. It's so fun. And it's just, I don't know. I love making cars do somersaults when you tap them with the plow. Boop. And I should also mention, if you do tap a NPC or player with it, it'll insta-kill them, as you can see. Tap, insta-die. So, yeah, you don't really mess with the Blade of Death on this vehicle. It's pretty deadly. It also has the ability to drop proximity mines. However, I don't think I have the proximity mines on it. Oh, I do. Yeah, there you go. These proximity mines are not crazy. You have the option of EMP mines, spike mines, kinetic mines. I like the EMP mines just because of the fact they stop whatever it is from getting to you. They just completely shut off the engine. In fact, I can show you what they do. If we leave that EMP mine there and then we drive over it, I can't turn my vehicle, I can't accelerate, I can't do anything. And it's for about 5 seconds. It's quite a bit of time, as you can see. So if there's ever a player chasing you, they're not going to be able to chase you any longer. And then it also has front-mounted laser guns, which do deal a decent amount of damage. They'll blow up a car fairly fast, as you can see. So I do consider it weaponized. Not only does it have all those capabilities, but the ZR380 can also survive upwards of 2 homing missiles, the third one blowing it up, and it's incredibly fast, going in at 140 miles per hour due to the speed boost it features. I mean, you can see the sheer speed of this vehicle here while we're driving it down the road. It's fast! Oh yeah, and the final amazing capability of the ZR380 is the fact that it can actually survive any amount of gunfire to the front. We can see that these bullets, well, they're not going through the front, and that's because this is actually a completely bulletproof windshield. It's kind of insane because of that. So I actually really, really like the ZR380. It's got armor, it's got weaponry, and it's fast. So it kind of checks all the boxes. It just doesn't excel at necessarily anything. It's more of a jack of all trades. In the number 6 position, I'm definitely going with the Thruster. The Thruster is a very, very underrated weaponized vehicle. And it's understandable why it's underrated, but honestly, I think people need to realize just how capable this is, especially if you're a new player. Purchasing something like the Oppressor Mark II is going to set you back a boatload of money. We have to sort by price, and you'll see the Oppressor at $6 million, and that's with the trade price. Would you like to see where the Thruster is? Well, we're going to have to do quite a bit of scrolling. We're in the $2 million range. Keep scrolling, and there it is. 1.875, the same price as the Stroberg. And what do you get for that price? Well, the Thruster is fairly fast. It's not as fast as the Oppressor Mark II. It goes about 125 miles per hour, but it's only about 7 miles per hour slower than the Oppressor, so it's still fairly quick. And we can see that here while I'm flying in it. It's pretty quick. The Thruster features 30 homing missiles, which we can see right here. I can fire these homing missiles willy-nilly, blow anything up on the road, which is obviously super, super nice. Now, they are not spammable homing missiles, but the fact that you still have homing missiles is really good. And then you have the biggest advantage over the Oppressor, which is the flares. The Thruster has spammable flares, as we can see. I can just keep shooting them over and over and over, which means if there's anybody ever trying to take me out, and they're in Ruiner 2000 or a Deluxo, it's going to be very hard to actually take me out of the sky with the fact that I do feature flares. So the Thruster is fast, it features flares, and it has homing missiles. It's basically a mini Oppressor Mark II for a third of the price. And I just don't think you can beat that price tag. The only problem is that to get the Thruster, you need to own a facility, which is kind of a waste of money. So that is something to keep in mind. But I honestly do consider the Thruster to be a really, really good purchase, especially for any beginners out there that don't want to waste a ridiculous amount of money on the Oppressor Mark II. It's still really fun to use, and it has some great capabilities going for it. Now things start to become a little harder for me to make an opinion, because now we have just really good vehicles left. And, oof, this is a tricky one. I think next we are going to pick... I'm going to go with the Vapid Speedo Custom. This is a really, really good weaponized vehicle for so many different reasons. And for missions, the Vapid Speedo Custom is absolutely incredible. I think a lot of people really underrate this choice. Now, this was the winner out of the other weaponized minigun vehicles. We have the weaponized Ignis, and we also have the weaponized Tampa. The weaponized Tampa came in last place, and the reason why is because you have to get bunker research, which for a beginner sucks. But not only that, it really just doesn't have anything that excels over the other two vehicles. For example, the Vapid Speedo Custom has semi-bulletproof glass. And not only that, but all of this metal paneling on the front actually counts as armor, which is insane. All of this here is bulletproof. All of this, even if you shoot these little struts here. The only part that isn't bulletproof is the glass. However, it's kind of bugged right now, not showing it as a weak spot. But the glass can take about 20 bullets before being shattered, which means that even if they do get through the little cracks, you're still going to have to take around 20 bullets to start even getting damage. And with the fact that you have all that metal paneling on the front, it means that miniguns and things that normally do cut right through that armor would still struggle quite a bit. Then you realize the Vapid Speedo Custom has proximity mines, just like the weaponized Tampa. That is, again, really, really nice. So I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, well, where do I rate the Speedo Custom versus the weaponized Ignis? And the weaponized Ignis is great. It's super fast, absolutely blows the doors off the Speedo Custom. However, it just has worse armor. It, first of all, doesn't have explosive proximity mines, which is a huge advantage for this vehicle, but it also just doesn't have that level of protection on the front, which definitely puts the Speedo Custom in the #1 position for me. Speed is not key when you're trying to kill people. It's more just survivability, and I think the Speedo Custom wins in the survivability category. You can obviously let me know what you guys feel, but yeah. And by the way, if you complete career progress, you can actually use the Speedo Custom in missions as well, which is really what tipped it over the edge for me. So obviously, everybody's going to have their own opinion, and all three of these weaponized vehicles are great. But I think the Vapid Speedo Custom is the best. You can use it in missions. It's pretty maneuverable for a van, and with the proximity mines and everything else, it's a bit of a beast, especially when it comes to completing missions. Even something heavy like an Insurgent, it's going to get shoved out of the way. I mean, that's a big old van right there. This thing has no troubles pushing big vehicles out of its way, as we can see. So it has homing missiles, it's got really, really good speed, and in general, it's super fun. Plus, the biggest advantage of it is that it's the only homing missile firing vehicle in the game that can be used in missions, which is a huge advantage over any of the other weaponized vehicles we'll be talking about. So if you're specifically looking at completing missions, I can tell you for a fact the Vigilante is your #1 choice. We break into the final four, and wow, this is a pretty tricky one. I think in the 4th place position, we're going to go with the Toriodor. And this is probably surprising some people. You'd think I'd put the Toriodor higher than the Ruiner 2000 and the Deluxo, but I'll explain why once we get up to the other two vehicles as well. But the Toriodor, let's start off with it. What does it have going for it? Well, the Toriodor, it kind of has everything going for it. It's fast with a rocket boost, just like the Vigilante. It has really, really good maneuverability, way more than even I expected. This thing is like a supercar in its handling. It has homing missiles, and unlike the other weaponized vehicles, an unlimited amount of homing missiles. I can just spam them over and over and over, and I'll never have to worry about running out, which is kind of insane. Now, they're not as accurate as the Ruiners, but they're still really dangerous homing missiles. And when you add into the fact that this can also survive 6 missiles before being blown up, yeah, it's got durability, it's got homing missiles, and it has the ability to go underwater. And I should mention you can use a rocket boost while underwater, as we can see right here, which is kind of sick. So it's got everything going for it. The only problem is that it can't fly. That's really the only downside versus the others. And, well, you'll see about the Ruiner 2000. But, yeah, when you compare it to the others, the only real downside is that it's not a flying vehicle. And being able to deal with aircraft above you is a big thing. And unfortunately, the Toriodor is just not amazing at that. That's why the Deluxo just ever so slightly beats it out. Honestly, I consider the Deluxo to be one of the most overpowered PvP vehicles in the game. The only problem is that the railgun exists, and yeah, the railgun definitely knocked it down a few pegs. If the railgun didn't exist, I'd probably put the Deluxo in 2nd place, but I think it's in 3rd place, because it's just a one-shot to the railgun. However, it still has, I would say, the best dogfighting capabilities. You might say, what the heck do you mean dogfighting capabilities? I mean, if there's a player in an F-160 Raiju, a rogue, any aircraft, this will absolutely smoke them. Why? Well, there's two reasons. First of all, it can turn on a dime instantly, right? Nothing is going to out-traverse you. Nothing. Which means that they're never going to have the ability to fire homing missiles on you. I've seen many players, always try to type in the comments like, oh, well, I'll just blow it up. I'd be like, okay, good luck, while I'm firing homing missiles at you that are just as dangerous as the Ruiner 2000s. Deluxo homing missiles do not miss. I remember I was recording a video with somebody when I did a PvP test with the Deluxo. There was a player who flew directly at me with the F-160 Raiju. Full speed at me. I fired the missile when he was in front of me. It turned around and took out the Raiju before it could even start turning. That is how overpowered these homing missiles are. And because of that, it means that you're never going to have the opportunity to take out the Deluxo, because it's just going to keep shooting homing missiles at you. What are you going to do to a Deluxo when it's just shooting missiles at you and you can't outmaneuver it? Nothing. There's nothing you can do. And you could say, oh, well, I'll fly away. I'm faster than it. How are you going to fly away if the homing missile's directly at your rear? You're going to have to turn. And that's what allows the Deluxo to be so insanely strong at defeating aircraft. If I ever see somebody in an Oppressor Mark II, or literally any flying vehicle, the Deluxo is my #1 go-to. And anybody that mains the Deluxo will full-heartedly agree with me in the comments. I can tell you that this is an amazing buy. The Deluxo is also fairly fast. It goes 127 miles per hour when driving, which makes it really, really maneuverable and surprisingly quick. It actually surprises a lot of people. And when you pair that with the fact that it can hover at any point and very easily complete missions, I would honestly say the Deluxo is just, it's S tier. It really is. I would always recommend to get your hands on it. And then there were two, the Ruiner 2000 and the Oppressor. Well, believe it or not, the Ruiner 2000 is in first place. It was a hard decision to make, but you'll see why. So, I don't really need to say anything about the Oppressor. It has flares or chaff. Unfortunately, it's a very long cooldown, which means you're very vulnerable while on that cooldown. It has homing missiles, which are spammable. Only 20 of them, though, if I'm not mistaken, which is a bit of a bummer. But yeah, it has homing missiles, which are obviously really, really dangerous. And it's fast. It's got a speed boost. It can accelerate up to its top speed of 130 miles per hour instantly. It also goes 130 miles per hour as long as you hold the handbrake, as you can see me doing here. So it's quick. It's incredibly maneuverable. There's not a single vehicle or aircraft in the game that is as maneuverable as an Oppressor. I mean, I can literally roll around this building. In fact, I can outturn the building. Look at that. Like, that's insane. And the biggest advantage is that, unlike a plane, if I crash into a building, nothing happens. You don't get knocked off of it. It doesn't get blown up. So, yeah, in general, the Oppressor it's a plane, but better. The only downside is that you run out of missiles pretty quick, and it has a 4-minute cooldown before you can get it back. And it costs $6 million. Now, today's video, we're not specifically talking about price, so it's still a great choice, but man, is that an expensive price tag. So, you might be thinking to yourself, why is the Ruiner 2000 the best vehicle in Grand Theft Auto Online for solo players? Well, OGs know why, and it's called Fully Loaded. Let me explain. If we go into the Register as a Boss tab, and then we go from SecuroServe to VIP Work, you will see Fully Loaded as an option. We can start this up. Fully Loaded gives you 20 minutes with this Ruiner 2000 here. Let me go head over to that Ruiner really quickly. And while we're doing that, let me talk about the capabilities of the Ruiner 2000. First of all, it features the most dangerous homing missiles in the game, period. Anybody that has used the Ruiner can vouch. These homing missiles will not miss. If you get a lock on something, if they don't have flares, they're screwed. That is insane. And unlike the Toriodor, you can actually take out flying targets very easily because you can jump. So you can get a very easy lock on somebody above you and take them out immediately. Not only that, but you have a parachute, which is pretty nice. It means if you're ever, trying to jump over a building or something, you can do that. I actually love the parachute. And there's a little trick you can do. If you actually reverse with the Ruiner and then jump, you can get a much greater amount of height with the parachute, as we can see. And what's crazy about this parachute is that you can actually glide from Mount Chiliad into the city. That's how good the gliding capabilities are. So you have the ability to jump. You have homing missiles, which are ridiculously dangerous. And when you pair all of that with the fact the vehicle's quite quick, it's really, really fun. The problem with the Ruiner 2000 is that it can't survive any explosions. And that is a big problem, right? I mean, not being able to survive any explosions means that you're not going to last very long against players today. However, the fully loaded Ruiner 2000 is a bit of a different story. And you can see that right here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, is it blown up yet? 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Still hasn't blown up. 14, 15. There you go. 15 homing missiles is what it took to blow that up. I want you to think about that for a second. That just took 15 homing missiles to get destroyed. And that's without me inside of it. If you don't know this, when you're inside of a vehicle, they can survive more missiles than when you're outside. I think if I'm not mistaken, the Ruiner 2000 in this mission survives about 20-ish homing missiles and about 10 RPGs. That's more than an Amani Tech vehicle by double. And by the way, this vehicle also has a missile lock on jammer. At least the mission vehicle does, which again is it's a little insane. And when your Ruiner gets destroyed in this mission, it'll instantly spawn a new one every single second, which is a little insane. The only real downside you have is that it's not a fully upgraded Ruiner, so it's not very fast, and I mean, it's still fast, it just doesn't have the turbo, transmission, or engine upgrades, but it's still pretty quick, and as I said, it's just so overpowered. By the way, the homing missiles, all of that works. So while you're in a mission, the homing missiles and all those dangerous capabilities are still just as dangerous. And by the way, you have 20 minutes. 20 minutes of this vehicle being overpowered. You're literally unstoppable. If you're in a public lobby and somebody tries to cause you grief, this is the ultimate go-to. It really is. There's nothing that even gets close to the Ruiner 2000. So, obviously, you can let me know your personal feelings, comments, and opinions down below, but hopefully you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, make sure to click that subscribe button down below. I'll hopefully see you all in the next one, and bye-bye.